Good afternoon, fellow mayors, and all of our distinguished guests that may be with us today. It's an honor for me to have such an opportunity. As I think about public safety and think about where we're headed, and over the past, I don't know how many years, and it seems that the more emphasis we put on it, the more need there is for something to be changed. So today we will have a session to talk about where we are and have some people that will join us to talk about things that we can do and what we ought to do that we can be made better when it comes to safety. I'm William Johnson. I'm the mayor of Holly Hill, South Carolina, and also serve as the Secretary for African American Mayors. So it's a pleasure for me to serve as moderator today. Thank you all for giving me an opportunity. So for today's session titled Reimagining Public Safety, we will be discussing how communities and local governments can work collaboratively to come up with best practice for community safety. I would like to, at this time, thank our sponsors, Cities United and Casey Foundation programs for the continued support of AAMA. As I think about the Cities United, and if we go back a few years back, 6 or 7 years, this is an initiative that Anthony and Mayor Nutter and Mayor Landra has put a lot of emphasis on over the years, and I've been working toward this. So they're probably, those two will join us as panelists. They probably is as much up to date on what's going on and what needs to be changed. So I'm glad to have them to join us. So participating on the panel today, we will have Anthony Smith, again, Executive Director of the Cities United. Thank you, Anthony. Mayor Sharon Broome from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Thank you, Mayor. And also we have from the advisory board, former Mayor Michael Nutter. Well, there he is. Yeah. Good to see you. And as I said, as I think about this conversation and have this conversation with this group, I'm truly looking forward that at the end of the day, we'll all be made better and we can go back to our respective cities and towns and continue this work. So again, thank you all. I'm going to ask that each of you give us a couple opening remarks, and I'm going to start with Mayor Broome. So give us a couple minutes of opening remarks, if you would.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor Johnson, and to my fellow panelists, my good friend, former Mayor Mike Nutter, as well as Anthony Smith, who has been working with us in this space from Cities United. I will tell you that the topic at hand, reimagining public safety, is certainly extremely relevant in this day and time and this season, I would say, in which we are in. And so while there are certainly many spokes in the wheel of public safety, it's my hope that we as mayors can certainly touch on some that we deal with on a daily basis in being innovative and creative in the public safety space, but recognizing we have to think differently in terms of where we are in the 21st century. And also recognizing that it's going to take, I should say, a deep dive of intentionality to resolve many of the issues that our communities face. So I'm delighted to be on the panel today.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Mayor Nutter, if you would.
Sure. Mayor Johnson, thank you very much. And of course, Mayor Broome, always good to see you. Anthony Smith, making things happen. I'm just thankful to be a part of this conversation. And Mayor Johnson, I appreciate the kind things that you said about Mayor Landrieu and I, and certainly Anthony, but the real work gets done by all of you on the ground. I now have the good fortune you'll experience it too, of being a former council member, former mayor, former president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and the former seat is a pretty nice seat. But even then, we all have to decide how we want to spend our time. And there, for me, no more important issue than public safety, and especially as it relates to Black and brown people, people of color across the United States, both in the civilian space, the day-to-day activity that goes on our streets, and certainly as we continue to experience, it seems almost daily, officer-involved shootings and other negative consequences that Black people and people of color are experiencing on the streets of America, as often they have reason or cause or circumstance to be involved with law enforcement across this country, and how we bridge those gaps, how we fill in some of these divides and get serious conversation going. But also, I think we start right here with the title of our program today, Reimagining Public Safety. Anthony knows that, and some others, I've tried to take policing out of my language, and I like to talk about public safety. What does public safety mean? That I can walk down the streets, that our kids can play, that seniors can go to, worship service or a doctor or supermarket or whatever, and not have to worry about the next bullet flying down the street or something else. And so we do need to reimagine public safety in America. We know where it came from, the construct of police departments. So we know some of that history. Maybe others need to learn it, but then understand what do we want to do in the 21st century and moving forward, and have a different relationship with those who serve and risk their lives every day to help make sure the rest of us are safe. We have got to get over these challenges. And I think that there are solutions that are ever present. We just need to listen.
Okay, thank you. And as we move forward, we'll talk about some of the challenges and some of the roadblocks.
Yeah.
So at this time, Anthony, will you give us a couple opening comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Johnson. I also want to thank the African American Mayors Association for their partnership with Cities United and for always creating the space for us to have these dialogues. Always a pleasure to be with Mayor Nutter and Mayor Broome. The last place I got to travel to was Baton Rouge to be with Mayor Broome, and it's been a long time. So looking forward to getting back down there. So,
yeah.
And I think as you heard from both mayors, this ideal of public safety is flawed the way we currently deal with it in this country. And it's flawed because of institutional racism, and then as you heard from Mayor Nutter, the construct of it. And it is bigger than police. It's bigger than police because when we think about public safety, we got to think about all of those things that interfere or intertwine with people's lives on a day-to-day, from police to jails to detention centers and all the other things.
I think you froze.
You're frozen. Can you hear us? Mayor Nutter, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I think he may have dropped. It looks like he's back. Anthony?
Yeah.
Anthony,
You were frozen there for a while, man. So, Anthony, can you hear us?
Then I can, yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you were frozen there for a little bit, so we didn't hear much of what you said.
No, that's fine. Thank you for that. Now, I would just say, and again, forgive me on that, we just got a lot of work to do. Both mayors covered it. Looking forward to the conversation. We just got to really, as a country, understand that the current public safety system and structure that we have does not work for all, and it actually destroys and hurts a lot of families. And we need to shift that model and really think differently about it moving forward.
Right.
well, thank you all for the opening comments. And as we move forward, as you all know, for the last, I don't know how many years, we spent a lot of time listening at a lot of opinions. And today we simply want to hear your vision for what you think that personal vision for public safety. And in the roles that you are today, what can you do and toward this vision that you have? Oftentimes we'll have a vision, but we can't affect it, impact it one way or another. So tell us about what your personal vision is, and how, what you do and what your role is in the communities and all that you can do to help get this done.
Well, Mayor Broome, you're in office, so
let's start with Anthony.
Yeah, I'll start because I'm in the thick of things,
That's
right?
right. Right in the middle.
But I will say, when I started, took office in 2017, I immediately began a time of reflection to create a vision for this city. And the vision that I came up with is that we are creating a community of peace, prosperity, and progress for every resident in this community. And this is indeed inclusive of public safety. So let me break it down very quickly. Peace, our residents are not navigating our community with a sense of fear, that whether it's related to public safety, economic uncertainty, health, and everything in between. So that's peace, prosperity, that our residents have the opportunity to thrive within their community. And progress, of course, our residents have the opportunities and resources to grow and progress farther than ever before. And so I'm glad that right now we have embraced what we call our Safe, Hopeful, Healthy program, which is certainly couched within these parameters. Anthony is familiar with it. And this Safe, Hopeful, Healthy program is my public wellness framework that addresses the underlying causes of health disparities, such as poverty, economic development, and education, through the lens of the social determinants of health, with the purpose to reduce violence. And so safety is not just the reduction of violence, it is the atmosphere in which people feel safe and can thrive. And so we're talking about stabilizing our youth and our family and community, reimagining public safety, utilizing community-based public safety strategies, reimagining public safety, creating an equitable community development, reimagining public safety, and expanding health in all policies, reimagining public safety.
Thank you, Mayor. As I said earlier, all of us are excited about talking about law enforcement and what we think could be done and what our vision is. So who wants to be next then?
Well, I want to pick up where Mayor Broome was. This idea that, safety is not the reduction, is not just the reduction of violence. Safety actually should be the absence of violence. We have to really not just imagine, but make happen. We have to dispel the almost the assumption that there's either always going to be violence, or we just kind of have to accept it or deal with it. I mean, I'm not speaking in a Pollyannish, kind of make-believe world. I understand. I mean, we can go back to Cain and Abel. I mean, somebody's always doing something to somebody, but there are circumstances and conditions that not only can it, quote unquote, be reduced, some of it just shouldn't exist. And so when I look at I think most people know I'm born, raised, educated, created all my trouble in Philadelphia. So when I look at the logo in the shield of the Philadelphia Police Department, the insignia, what's on the vehicles, it's honor, integrity, and service. I want us to live up to those ideals. We're going to serve with honor. It's going to have integrity, and we're going to provide service. It's complicated to do. I don't mean to make it sound so simple, but that's the ethos of the organization. That's what's on the patch on the officer's uniform. That's what's on the side of the car: honor, integrity, service. Let's start with that. Police Commissioner Ramsey, who I had the honor to serve with, and many of us see him and have known him, Chicago to DC to Philadelphia now, a top commentator on television. He would talk about the need for openness and transparency, and that you have to set certain standards of what is acceptable. And he demonstrated that each and every day. I learned so much from him. But, we have to create an environment where folks do feel safe. As the old saying goes, if you don't feel safe, you're not safe. Statistics are not the start and the end of the story. I mean, I could tell you about this reduction, that reduction, the other reduction, but if you heard gunshots last night, if your children are jumping in the bathtub trying to avoid getting hit, then you don't feel safe, no matter what the numbers say. That at graduation, police officers coming out of the academy, he would tell the officers, treat people on the street the way you would want your family member treated. Just keep that in mind. And I'm not saying that everybody's a cooperating person. Remember, as citizens, and we can have conversation about, what we call the police about, but, some circumstance happens, 911, a little bit of information, everybody's excited. Here's a person with a gun, a badge, maybe sometimes a taser, or a baton.
Okay.
And we want them to deal with every situation out here in these streets that folks could not imagine. And we're not seeing people sometimes on their best day. And in the current environment, I'll close with this. I know, Mayor, you're trying to moderate, but it's going to be tough with the three of us.
I knew that.
Right. But
yes, we're fine.
Often we're seeing increasingly citizens, because of many things that have happened, not just recently, but over time, they're nervous and afraid. And I think increasingly the officers are nervous and afraid. When you put those pieces together and then people around and the wonders of technology, put all of that together, it's an environment that almost creates a sense of dismay and agitation. And so we got to focus on that.
Okay. As you were talking, I was reminded that when I became mayor, I was asked to go to the graduation of a police officer to the academy. And they got to this that says Code of Ethics. I thought we had just made a bishop or somebody. It's really something as they go through what they're expected to uphold.
Right.
But not only just that badge that you see, if you read the Code of Ethics, for those, and I remind mine sometimes, I said, now we got to uphold these on a daily basis. So it's out there. We just got to get the good things out that we have and take away the bad things and do something with our training. But again, I do understand that all of us could talk about how we do this policing and how we could do law enforcement different than how public safety. So I agree that we will be flexible and allow you all
Thank
to.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So
That's what happens. See, Mayor Broome, you see, when you're a former, you get a little extra dispensation. See what happens. That's how that works.
I see.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mayor. And, I love listening to Mayor Nutter and Mayor Broome and being a part of the conversation. I think for me, when we're talking about reimagining public safety, we actually got to get to a place where we are okay that law enforcement and police leaving looks different, right? We as a city and as a country put a lot of our resources there, and we have not gotten outcomes that we desired, right? So when we talk about reimagining public safety, in my mind, it's like, where are we investing our dollars and where are we investing our time? And as you heard both Mayor Nutter and Broome talk about this, and those safety nets that family needs, right? Affordable and safe housing, access to quality education, opportunity to work at jobs that pay a livable wage, being able to walk through your neighborhood, being able to go buy food in your neighborhood, being able to go get health care, both physical and mental, without having to, go through a whole lot of hoops to do that, right? So where we invest our resources really help us understand what we value. And we, in my opinion, have not valued public safety for all in this country. And that's where the shift is coming in at, where we're asking folks to think about this differently and really focus in on those families who don't even feel safe when police ride through their community. No. So I think that's the hard conversation we got to have, is that police actually bring fear in some people's lives just because of their presence. Yeah. We have been watching young people and ask for SROs, school resource officers, to be taken out of their school because they just don't feel safe. So until we start addressing those issues, public safety is always going to feel different for different pockets of our communities. And law enforcement is not going to be seen as a partner, but more so as a part of the system that makes it hard for folks to feel safe. So I just think when we have this conversation, and you all know, that's what Cities United has been trying to have for the last little while, is what does it look like and what does it mean? And how do we push ourselves to be okay with it? We might have fewer or less, or some might have not none police officers in the long run, because we got different people who will respond to different issues, because we don't always need a badge and a gun to respond. Sometimes we need a mental health worker and somebody who can help there.
Okay, well, thank you all. We'll move to our next question. It's evident that each of you are doing things to try to change, and as you go through your day-to-day work trying to make these changes and reimagine public safety, what are some of the roadblocks or some of the challenges that you encountering today? Mm-hmm. Let's start with you, Mayor Broome.
Yeah, well, when I took office in 2017, our community had just been through one of the most traumatic years in the history of Baton Rouge. In fact, I was running for office during that 2016 year. We had the officer-involved shooting of Alton Sterling. We had the ambush of police officers, and then we had a great flood. You talk about a traumatic year, it was extremely traumatic. But what we did, when I had the privilege of serving as mayor, we started working on one of the top priorities, which was policing, trying to close the gap between our police officers and the citizens of our community. I gathered a group together of stakeholders. We worked on use of force policies. We looked at other policies. We purchased body cameras. So we started making transformation. And part of that transformation was the hiring of a new police chief. And that police chief, Murphy Paul, my police chief, has been really working to reimagine policing and moving our department towards 21st century policing. So what roadblocks have we come up again? Have you tried to change a culture that's been in existence for about 138 years of policing, and trying to get folks to embrace a different vision? I will tell you that, and I have been vocal about this before, it's a challenge. And I know it's a challenge in other cities, that many of our barriers within our department stem from the pushback from our police union. Mm-hmm. And so, I've said that before. For some, it's a pretty bold statement and surprising statement. Whoa, you're going to talk about the union, but I am. They have been an obstructionist to our reform or reimagining efforts, if you will. I will tell you another challenge that we have is working to recruit and maintain the best officers that are available. I never will forget, before I became a mayor, 100 years ago, I was on the city council here in Baton Rouge. And I remember visiting a city, I'm not going to name the city, with a police chief there who was noted for the work that he was doing. And I remember him talking about the competitive salaries that he had for his officers, and that most of his entire department was college educated, with other officers pursuing advanced degrees. So the mindset and exposure of your police department has a lot to do in how they police. And so we need officers. We need officers who call our community home, who have exposure, who are educated, who have respect for people, and are a good representation of the community that they serve. So these are just a few of the challenges and roadblocks that we've faced as we've been working to implement our vision of public safety here in Baton Rouge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you. As I think about what you just said, even the hiring of police officers, being from a small town, I never dreamed that I'd have an opportunity to actually interview, hire, and the police chief reports to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenges is just as it is in manufacturing or anywhere else. It's just tough for folk to come to work and do what we think they ought to do. You know, we put all these things in place, so it's been a challenge for me. I know what they go through. Same things you said, not being able to hire those folk that we think bring the skill set that will get the job done. So consequently, you hire who you hire, and the quality of work is who you hire. Oftentimes, we don't have time to develop them. Small towns, we hire them. By the time we start developing, they quit and leave and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But again,
and would you indulge me one more minute, Mayor Johnson? This came to my mind, and I have to say it, is that I believe one of the roadblocks, too, is a mindset of we against them. What do I mean by that?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that when you talk about transforming and reforming, it is not anti-police. It is not, you're speaking against the police when you talk about reimagining policing or reforming policing. And unfortunately, there's a segment in our community across the nation who feels that anytime you talk about reforming police or reimagining a police department or changing a police department, that you are sending an anti-police message. Absolutely not. Just like you said, Mayor Johnson, in any business, corporation, you've got people who get it, who get the work done, who embrace the vision, who know the mission, and who do excellent work. Then you have some that don't. They are obstructionists. And so we've got to face that in America, too. We've got to be willing to say we want a 21st century police departments all over America. We want police who really, as Mayor Nutter said, embrace the ethos of what their departments are about. And that will take us, light years ahead if we have that. But we've got to stop this mindset that exists among some citizens that, when you talk about reform, you're against the police. Absolutely not. I'm for the police and I'm for you, and I want to make life better for all of us.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor Nutter?
Sure. No, it's absolutely, Mayor Broome is absolutely correct. And in the first time we met in Baton Rouge, we had many of these kinds of conversations, and she was really going through, she and her team going through some challenges at that time. Again, it's not anti, it's pro-citizen. Step back for a moment. There are 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States of America, most at the state and local level. Standards and practices, consistency across national standards. I believe that there should be national standards around a variety of things like use of force, de-escalation. Who said that 40 weeks or so is the amount of time that sometimes or less that recruits should be in the academy? When we look at some other professions and law enforcement, public safety is a profession. We may need folks to be at that academy longer. Well, that costs money. I get that. To change the training may cost money. The question gets asked so many times, why are they so quick to pull out their weapon? Well, part of the reason is that the gun is often what they are trained on the most. That's the thing that they also have to go back and get recertified. So it's human nature. You're going to use the thing you know best, right? As the old saying goes, if you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If all you're going to rely on is your gun, then the moment something happens, right? We saw it just with the young man in one of the most recent shootings, Deontay. The officer says, or the police chief said, thought they had one thing, ended up with something else. If you're watching the video, it is crystal clear in that moment, but it's a moment of excitement that is not a taser. Guns are generally gray or black. Tasers are orange and yellow. They're usually on a different side of your body. I mean, there's so much that goes on. And yes, these are frightening moments, but some of it is also about stepping back for a moment and saying, like, what are we doing here? What are we really doing, right? We know who this person is. We run their tags. Do we need to shoot after them? Do we need to chase after them? I mean, all of this stuff. A lot of it is just the adrenaline in the moment. Yes, our police unions do need to step up. I had a very direct and very clear relationship with the leader of the police union in Philadelphia. We generally got along. Things that we disagreed on, we just disagreed on, curse each other out and move on to the next thing sometimes. But, he would say, and look, they get elected like many of us on this screen get elected. And he would say, well, I have a membership and I represent them and elections coming. I'd say, well, I understand that. Well, I get elected too, and my electorate is bigger than yours. And as a matter of fact, all the people who voted for you are also my constituents as well. And so at the end of the day, you want to make sure that if there is an encounter, if there is a stop on the streets, in a car, whatever the situation is, generally, everybody should be able to walk away from that alive. Somebody may be arrested. They may be in custody, whatever the case may be. The officers want to go home to their families. Our family members want to come back to us. And so, again, the mindset is to protect and serve. We've got to get away from the warrior model. We've got to move into the guardian model of what public safety is all about.
Thank you. Anthony?
Only thing I could add to that, because they hit all the points, is that I think our mental model of what public safety is and what law enforcement is one of the barriers that we have. We have been indoctrinated with this is the model for so long that we can't move past something different, right? So when the mayor talks about let's reform and reimagine, it's so hard for people to do that because this is the thing. And this is the thing that, and if we want to really get clear and honest, where white folks have really felt safe. This is a thing that has kept them safe across the country. It keeps people out of there. It keeps their property safe. It keeps people out of their communities. All of the things that is so hard for them to reimagine. What would it look like if this wasn't the model anymore? And so that's the hard thing. And I also think part of this ideal that makes it hard for Black folks as a collective to really buy into this current model is there's no accountability, right? We see what happens across the country. Even what's happened to the young lady, Makiba, I think her name is, in Columbus, Ohio, who the 13-year-old who called for help and ended up dead by the police. We don't know what that trial is going to look like, but there's so many times when officers are in the wrong, are not held accountable, not by their peers, not by the system, or any of the things that's in place. So this ideal of what this is just needs to shift and change. So I think I agree 100% with the police unions. They either need to step up or get out of the way, one of the two. I don't know what it is, but they hinder a lot of movement because they're so committed to protecting even those that they know are in the wrong. And that hinders the profession and it hurts the profession. If the profession is going to stay, then they need to get that in check. Or they're going to continue to have people push back because of the way that rolls out.
So as we move forward, we don't have a lot of time left, but a couple things I want you all to talk about, and maybe we'll just say, answer these two questions as you talk. And I think you got a couple minutes each, not long before it's time for us to move on to the next session.
Such a diplomat.
And I think Anthony kind of touched on it. And why is it so hard for us to get away from the present system? And while you're telling me that, telling the audience that, think about all the money that's coming down from the new administration. What are some of the things that we could do with that money? And I think it'd be very appropriate for somebody to talk about putting some into public safety. But anyway, y'all got the two questions?
Yes, we do, Mayor.
Yeah.
All right, y'all, don't you all haven't beat me up now. Let's
No.
be brief and get it done so we can get out and get ready for the next one again. Okay, Mayor Broome.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Anthony. This is a good connection segue to what Anthony talked about. You know, tradition and comfortability are the largest factors when it comes to barriers in terms of changing our public safety practices. You know, why is it so hard for us to let go of our current version of public safety? You know, the first centralized police force was established in 1838 to allegedly protect and serve. That is 138 years of policing in the United States. And I don't have to take you back even farther in terms of the origin of policing in America. Many people, especially where I live here in the Deep South, are opposed to changes within the institutions shaping our society. Anthony said it very, very clearly. That's where they feel comfortable. That's where they feel a level of control, especially in our non-communities of color. And you know, for them, that's their folks. You know, the police are part of the fabric of their community. And so it's important for us to, however, not let that be a deterrent. I think we have to continue to push for progressive community-based public safety strategies. And you notice you mentioned the money. You know, I thought it was really a good move when some of the CARES Act dollars came down, that they were designed and said you could use them for public safety. Because recognizing some of the issues that emerged out of the pandemic around public safety. Right. Last year, there was a peak in violent crime all across America. Yep. In cities all across America, and much of it has been attributed to COVID-19. And so now these COVID-19 dollars, these CARES Act dollars, have the flexibility to use them for certain reimagined public safety initiatives, such as what we're doing here in Baton Rouge with our Safe, Hopeful, and Healthy initiative. We're using CARES Act dollars to stand that program up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, there's more money coming. And
yeah, it is.
I'm not going to steal Anthony's thunder because he deserves tremendous credit. But we can't let this moment pass as these dollars come down to do exactly what this panel is talking about, is reimagining public safety and the kind of investments that need to be made. I know there's a lot of language out in the public about I guess I'll say it, defund. I think of it more as refund. We need to figure out where there are savings to be made in these various departments, and then invest those savings into other services. I don't want to say merging, but certainly a more strategic coordination between the public safety department and the mental health and social service agencies. We need to embrace that. The investment in certain types of equipment. We may need to increase or lengthen the amount of training that the officers receive, not just recruits in the academy, but all of them. There are so many of these instances. I'll conclude, Mayor Johnson, but so many of these incidents, these tragic incidents, have come on the heels of things that were just not that serious. Eric Gardner was selling loose cigarettes. Michael Brown was standing in the middle of the street. Jacob Blake was just going around his car. I mean, he survived. I mean, but seven gunshots, and we know the George Floyd story. Possibly a counterfeit $20 bill. I mean, these are not life and death situations. No one should die or be severely injured from these kinds of incidents. So this is about stepping back for a moment, evaluate the situation. What's my training? You know, I know they should know how to fight or engage in defensive tactics. The young lady who was just shot, I mean, okay, yeah, she had a knife. The officer probably had a baton. I don't know about anybody here. If you've ever been hit by one of those things, it will knock you down. But she would have survived. And so it's in that moment. And look, I've never been a police officer. I lost 8 officers killed in the line of duty while I was in office, and those are some of the worst days you will ever experience. So I've seen it. I've seen it on both sides, but we really do have to reimagine all of this. And yes, it will be uncomfortable for many, Black or white, Latino or Asian. Yes, it will be discomfort, but there's possibly no greater or worse feeling than your family member dead. None. And so that makes it worth the effort here.
Okay, well, thank you, Anthony. You and I have 3 minutes to share.
I won't take long, Mayor, I promise. I would just add, this is going to be the conversation that this country needs to have if we really truly want to be who we want to be. This is one of the issues that has been holding us back for far too long, and we have not put all of our safety first. And until we do that, we're going to continue to have this conversation. I believe that we could really, really think about how we spend our resources, where we spend our resources at. And I just think mayors have that leadership role, and that got to be those bold steps that they take. As Mayor Broome talked about, you know, we cite how she used our CARES Act dollars all the time because there's more money coming with the American Rescue Plan. Right. Folks are ready to get an influx of cash and resources to do work. And we're trying to get mayors to think ahead of the game, like get you an infrastructure built that's more about peace and safety than it's ever been before. Mm-hmm. Right. And think about how you can do that to stand it up now, then start using your dollars to invest in that over time. Right? So right now we have so many opportunities to think forward and to think creatively and innovatively, and to save lives. Right. Just to be 100% transparent about this, it really is about saving lives. And we've got to just be clear that, you know, I hear all the time we talk about data, and the data that we look at from law enforcement does not give us the outcomes that we should be looking for. We know we invest, but then we look at the outcomes. We still have crime. We still have all the things that happen that they're supposed to prevent. We've got to shift that model. And that's the plea, is just to say, look at the money that we spend, look at the outcomes from it. And if it's not getting us what we want, we should be willing to invest in something different. And we should be looking to invest in prevention and work, as you heard Mayor Broome and Mayor Nutter talked about, that really can get in there and make sure young people stay on track, make sure young people get what they need, make sure families get what they need. We have models and we have options, and now is the time. We can talk about the other money that the president has committed in, that $5 billion, which is a huge investment in this work that could change the course of this country if we get that right and put it in the right places. So again, this is a timely conversation. We could probably go on for 2 more hours, Mayor Johnson, but I'll turn it back over to you.
Mayor Johnson, I'm sorry, just one point of privilege. Anthony, I'm going to admonish you on this call. You cannot bury the lead. Anthony Smith and Cities United and a number of other organizations petitioned the president and his team and had direct meetings with Susan Rice, asked for $5.3 billion in the ARP, American Rescue Plan. The plan put forward $5 billion. That's the work of our folks, and in a coalition with a number of other organizations. I'm not saying Anthony did it by himself, but he was at the table. And when people do that kind of work, they need to be acknowledged. We need to talk about it and lift it up. And Cities United and the support that we get from Casey Family Programs and certainly National League of Cities. I mean, we're all in this work together, right? Nobody does all this stuff by themselves. But I just want to acknowledge on this call that folks understand the advocacy that goes into making stuff happen. They didn't just pull that number out of the sky. That wasn't something they were walking down the street and say, oh, let's put $5 billion into public safety. No, that was a request. It was an ask, and people we get invited to these tables because people know that we know what we're talking about.
Okay, well, thank you, and
Thank you for that,
again,
Mayor
let
Nutter.
me go
Appreciate
ahead.
that.
Okay.
Just told Mayor Nutter, thank you for that.
Yeah, let me just say, those of you that's on the call, if you're a mayor, how important it is to become part of Cities United. I've been there for 6 years, and I can tell you, when you look at the work of Cities United and what Anthony does, really it's exciting work, and it's a lot of work. And Anthony, thank you for your role, and certainly for the case of family programs. Now, at this time, we're going to just simply say that we've enjoyed the conference today. I was able to sit in most of it, but we've come to the end of it for today. So we thank the panel. We thank all of those that have joined us during the day to hear from panelists, different panelists. But at this time, don't leave if you're on. We're getting ready to turn it over to our president, Mayor McKinley Price, for closing comments, and he will lead you from here.
I want to thank everyone who's been on this panel and the other panels. It's been a great day. I want to thank everyone for attending our first day of the African American Mayors Association's 2021 virtual annual conference. Also, we want you to look forward to joining us on day 2, which will be Tuesday, May 11th, and you will be getting information about that and times and what's going on with that. So please be reminded also now that all of our active mayors are invited to join our annual meeting of mayors that begins at 1:45 to 2:15. The business council meeting will begin at 2:15 to 3 o'clock. The Zoom conference information has already been sent out for both of those meetings. So for questions regarding how to join, if you have any issues, please notify AAMA staff at aama@ourmayors.org. Thank you.